Hello there! Would you believe me if I told you there was an animated series in the early 1990s that was produced by Steven Spielberg and Tim Burton from a concept by Brad Bird, and it only ran 10 episodes? Well, it's true. That show was Family Dog, about a dog trying to get love and support from an uninterested family. Family Dog premiered as an episode of Spielberg's short-lived anthology show Amazing Stories in 1987. It was directed by Brad Bird, who'd recently been fired by Disney, co-wrote the Amblin-produced Batteries Not Included, and was trying to get a film adaptation of The Spirit off the ground. Meanwhile, the characters were designed by Tim Burton, who'd also been kicked out of Disney, and you might notice the title dog looks an awful lot like Frankenweenie from his recent stop-motion feature, and Zero from The Nightmare Before Christmas, and it seems Burton really likes to draw his dogs with pointy noses. The short revolved around the dog and his family, who frequently ignores him, except when he does something wrong. This was a humorous commentary on suburban life, with a unique perspective of how the pet might view his owners. The short particularly hits its stride in the third act, when the dog is taken to an obedience school and turned to a ferocious guard dog, and the resultant mayhem that ensues. The animation was particularly expressive and high quality, as Spielberg really wanted it to rise above the typical look seen on Saturday morning cartoons of the era. It's no surprise that a lot of the animators who worked on the original Family Dog would go work for the Mouse House shortly afterwards. Even though Amazing Stories was not a particularly successful series, Family Dog got a lot of attention, and a shortened version was even attached to The Land Before Time. Thus, Spielberg became interested in a potential television series. However, Brad Bird felt the concept would not translate to a show, and went on to help develop a little series called The Simpsons. Following the massive success of Matt Groening's famous Yellow Family, the other networks immediately jumped on having their own hit primetime animated series. The result came 3 shows that barely lasted more than 10 episodes on their respective networks, one of which was Family Dog. Even more so than Fish Police and Capital Critters, Family Dog had major production problems and delays. CBS decided to promote it on the Grammy Awards despite not having a set air date, and in fact the series never even made it to air until over 2 years after that promo was shown. Originally, the animation was outsourced to Wang Film Productions, but the result proved unsatisfying, so Tim Burton hired the folks at Nelvana, who had done well with his Beetlejuice animated series. CBS had also initially ordered 13 episodes, and head writer Dennis Klein even wrote all of them, but ultimately only 10 episodes were made and aired. When Family Dog finally aired in the summer of 1993, it flopped badly, despite having the names of Spielberg and Burton in the credits. Now, I wish I could say that CBS should have given it a better shot, and that Family Dog was worthy enough to be a successful show that would run for multiple seasons. However, I have to side with Brad Bird and say the concept really did start to run dry as a full-time series. The potential was there, as in addition to Spielberg and Burton, Animaniacs writers Paul Dini and Sherry Stoner had a hand in the scripts, and Chris Buck, who later go on to direct Tarzan, Surf's Up, and Disney's Frozen, was in charge of the animation. However, while the idea of a family ignoring that dog works well for one-off short, it starts to grate in the television series. To start with the positives of the show, the best character is easily the dog. While the animation is not quite as expressive as the original short, the animators still managed to convey a lot of emotions on his face. You sense his sadness and happiness, and that allows him to be likable, and it's helped that Burton's design is absolutely adorable. The best episode of the show is one that focuses mostly on the dog, as he tries to chase after a neighbor dog who he has fallen for, whose owner is leaving to the airport. That level of sweetness was rare during the course of Family Dog, and it was nicely conveyed in both this episode and in the finale, when they both reunite. The show would also occasionally enter the dog's daydreams, which provided some further nice moments. The family, on the other hand, is rather unlikable. As I said, the Binfords were fine in a one-off short, but spending more time with them is too much. Most of the dialogue pretty much consists of bickering as they constantly argue with one another. The father seems to have the most development in the family, as he has the rare moment of compassion for the dog, but he still spends a lot of his screen time getting annoyed at the dog, his wife, and his children. However, I don't blame him for his tepid reaction to his children, as both of them are a tad annoying, especially the boy. Billy just shouts all of his dialogue, which consists of either tormenting the dog or family members, or complaining. The episode, Eye on the Sparrow, did provide a nice change of pace, as it showed him caring for a bird and feeling guilty for hurting it. Though again, it's the dog that steals the show. However, after a while, I started to wonder why they don't just sell the dog if they don't seem to like him. Again, the finale is a solid episode, because it's the rare time the Binfords actually concern for the dog and don't just berate him. Ultimately, there's only so much bickering and arguing one can take on an animated sitcom. I mean, The Simpsons may have had their issues with one another, and there was certainly a lot of strangling going on in that household, but at least that show wasn't just bickering with one another for 20 minutes straight. In the end, Family Dog quietly aired its 10 episodes and has been forgotten in the seas of time, especially when, that same year, Steven Spielberg was responsible for another animated series that became his most popular and beloved. However, if you want to see an early example of Brad Bird's animation and filmmaking abilities, the original Amazing Stories episode is definitely worth a look. See you next time.